Hello everybody, it's Sarah and today I have a review for you, and that review is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is going to be a pretty much spoiler-free review. If I happen to mention any spoilers, I will tell you beforehand. For those of you who don't know, Outlander is the first book in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, and it's about Claire, who was a nurse in the Second World War, and in 1945, after the war ended, she goes on a second honeymoon with her husband to reconnect. And they go to the Scottish Highlands, and while there she walks through a stone circle and is transported back in time 200 years, where she meets the very handsome warrior James Fraser. And that's pretty much a summary of the whole book. It really hurts me to say that, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who love this series, but I did not enjoy this book. First of all, I like the concept, and I thought going into this book that it would be a bit more action and a bit less romance. I really did not enjoy the romance. I thought it was kind of one-dimensional, and the sex scenes were really bland and bad, and I did not enjoy them, but I'll get to the sex at a later point. Overall, because of the romance, this book really gave me the feeling of a cheap erotica novel but with less sex. And it's not to say that eroticas are a bad kind of genre, but it wasn't what I wanted when I went into this book. I think I would really have enjoyed this book more if it focused more on the action and on the intrigues rather than the romance, which I have said continuously ever since I started this review, but just to sum it up. Also, this book is written in a first-person perspective. I personally do enjoy multiple POVs a little bit more, especially if they're well done. But what I really don't like, if a book has more than 500 pages and is written in first person. This has 850 pages, so it's a very long book. And if you don't get multiple POVs in those long books, I find that very often they become repetitive and very boring, because you don't have this change between the views of the different characters in the book. Overall, I just thought that this book was a little bit too long. The last 300 pages were just work for me to get through. I mostly skipped like 3-4 pages, and then I read 2 pages again, and then I skipped a few pages before I read them again. And that was the only way that I managed to finish this book without setting it aside. Normally in novels, you have a very clear climax at the end of the story. There are maybe smaller obstacles at the beginning of the book, in the middle of the book, but there's always a conflict or a climax at the end of the book or near the end of the book. And I really thought that this wasn't the case with this book. I would have been okay if this had been like 2 books or even 3 books, but like this, it was just dragging along without really working towards a goal. At least I felt that way. I really don't mind it if I don't care too much about the main characters, which happened in this book, because most of the time, if I don't like the main characters, I really fall in love with the side characters. But in this book, I felt like all the characterizations were pretty one-dimensional, and the only way that Diana Gabaldon tried to make them less one-dimensional was to give them some kind of backstory, but those backstories didn't really come through in the characterization. So I have to say that I did not care about one single character in this book, except perhaps for Gaily Duncan, who was like a witch-ish kind of character. Yeah, if I can't connect with any of the characters, it's really hard for me to read a book, because I just need that connection to like a book. And there was some pretty horrible stuff happening at the ending, and I did not care. I was just... Normally, if I read any book and that kind of stuff happens, I would be in tears, I would be heartbroken, but I was just like, yeah, okay, so that happened. So my biggest issue with this book was probably the sex scenes. Now, I do not mind 1 or 2 sex scenes in a book. I can even enjoy them if they're well done, although I find that the line between a well done sex scene and a very silly or bad sex scene is, well, there's not much of a line between those two things. And in this book, it was just overdone. When every interaction between the 2 main characters ends in sex, even if it's not descriptive or anything, it's just too much. I don't understand why certain authors think that sex helps plot development. It's just, no, it's not. It can add to the plot, yes, but it's not a way to push the plot forward. So that was really annoying. And then also, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the belt whipping beating scene, which was not my biggest problem in this book. My biggest problem was that multiple times Claire told Jamie, no, I am angry right now. I don't want to have sex. And she clearly said so. And he still pushed her. And in the end, like, her body won over her rationality or something. And she enjoyed it, which I think in that case it depends on the viewer, on the reader, if this crosses the line to rape or not. But for me, it's just... I did not like it. I can read books with rape without being upset, because most of the time it's made clear that this is rape and this is not okay. But in this book it was just... I don't know, it's excusable because in the end Claire enjoyed it. And no, it's not excusable. And those kind of sex scenes really made me uncomfortable. The first half of the book I kind of enjoyed, but when it came to those scenes I was just like, no, I don't think that the characters can do anything that will excuse this to me. Maybe you think there was a spoiler. Personally, I don't think so, because I think those things have to be said, because if you are uncomfortable with those scenes, then you really should not read this book. I gave this book a 2 stars on Goodreads only because there were some scenes that I enjoyed and that made me smile, and as I said, I liked the beginning, but overall I just thought it dragged along. The characters and the stories was one-dimensional, and frankly speaking, it's not a very good book in my opinion, which doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. I read plenty of books that are not good books and that I still enjoy. So in the end, it's up to you whether you pick this up or not. I did watch the TV show and I enjoyed the TV show, so it's not that the story wasn't for me, it's just the overall writing style and everything wasn't for me. It just added up a lot. So that's all I have to say. I hope you found this review helpful. And tell me what were your thoughts on Outlander if you have read it. Did you feel similarly to me, or did you love this book? If you loved it, why did you love it? I hope I'll see you soon, and kiss kiss.